Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the brand new 2026 Honda CR-V. But more specifically, this is the all-new TrailSport trim level, the most off-road capable version of the CR-V that you can currently buy, and it's in a color that Honda likes to call Platinum White Pearl, which really looks fantastic. Whether it's in the sunshine or the shade, there's a lot of metallic flake in the paint. But while this is one of the newest compact crossovers on the market today, competing against vehicles like the Toyota RAV4 Woodlands Edition and Subaru Forester Wilderness, it's not perfect, so today I get to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of the all-new hybrid TrailSport CR-V to help you guys at home decide if this might be the right vehicle for you, or if you should leave it at the lot and look at the other compact crossover competition. So today you can expect to see a walk around, all the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts, and huge thanks to the Larry H. Miller Honda in Boise, Idaho for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link down below if you're interested because they sell below MSRP, they ship all over the country, and with that said, let's dive right into this review. And thank you so much for watching car videos on YouTube, but if you get anything out of this video today, you like my style, or you like the CR-V, please consider liking my video. Basically, that lets me know to make more videos like this. It helps the video get shared, but it'll also help you by having YouTube choose to show you more stuff just like this. Thank you so much. But if you're new to Honda, or the Honda CR-V, there's a few things that you should probably know. Honda is a Japanese automaker, and they've been around since the 1940s. They started just after World War II ended. Originally, they set out with the goal of making small two-stroke engines for a motorsports division, but they grew pretty well, and they had high anticipations and high ambitions, and soon they started to make automobiles. And then by the end of the 1950s, in 1959, they were such a large company that they sent 8 full-time employees to the United States to start their automotive Honda division here. And since then, they have grown huge. They are one of the biggest automakers. But the CR-V, this thing, at least its great-great-great-grandpa, it didn't actually come around until 1995. That's around the same time as all the other compact crossovers in the middle of the 90s when these type of vehicles started to become more popular. And this one certainly is popular, selling over 300,000 units basically every single year in the United States market, sometimes almost 400,000, just shy of how many sales the Toyota RAV4 gets. But these, another reason they're pretty popular is they're fairly affordable, at least affordably priced compared to the competition. A base model starts at about $31,000, which is unfortunately a $1,000 price premium over last year's. The base hybrid starts at about $35,500, but where this is a TrailSport built off of the lowest trim level of the hybrid, it does start at about $39,000 MSRP. This one is only optioned with this platinum white pearl paint, and then after destination delivery, it is about a $40,000 vehicle before your Larry H. Miller discount. But for about $40,000, what do you get? Not only do you get a 5-star crash test rated vehicle, but you get one that's even a top safety pick. And to get that TSP rating, you have to have a lot of active and passive safety features as standard, not just on the top tier trim levels like this, but across the board, even on the base model, even for $31,000, you're going to get a lot of the same safety features that you can find on this one. So everything from really bright LED headlights, to parking sensors, to lane keep assist, to adaptive cruise, to blind spot monitoring. And I do have to say that the safety features on this CR-V actually work pretty competitively against the best of the competition, especially for under $40,000. But because this is a top safety pick, it also has phenomenal crash test crumple zones. Because this is a unibody and not a body on frame, it does really well at protecting you and your family, and I'm so thrilled that Honda still puts that as a priority. But beyond all that, this TrailSport hybrid is based off of the Sport Hybrid. So you're gonna get a lot of the standard Sport Hybrid features with the addition of all the TrailSport goodies. So a cool all-terrain tire on an 18-inch wheel, TrailSport badges, illuminated door handles on the front of the vehicle. You have some orange Hobby Lobby stitching, and a few other niceties that you'll see throughout. But you also have 2 electric motors, a naturally aspirated engine. You have a 1.1 kilowatt-hour battery pack. You have a leather-wrapped heated steering wheel, cloth seats in the front which are comfortable and are heated, a small sunroof, and a bunch of other features that you're just going to have to see throughout this video. Because this is a compact crossover, it fits really well in the average size parking space. It's also really easy to maneuver and drive around town, but it's also big enough to be stable at highway and interstate speeds. This one specifically is about on par with a lot of the other compact crossovers for its overall dimensions. It is about 15.4 feet long. The wheelbase is 8.83 feet, which is really good for stability, and then it's 6.1 feet wide, about 5.6 feet tall the way this one is spec'd with its black roof rails. And then because it's a hybrid, it does weigh a few hundred pounds more than the non-hybrid, about 3,900 pounds, which I actually really like, and after owning a hybrid and a non-hybrid compact crossover, I like the hybrids more. They are more stable at highway speed, plus you have all the low end torque, which this thing has in abundance for what it is. And then it has a payload capacity of about 850 pounds. So even though it weighs more, you don't lose any payload compared to the non-hybrid CR-V, which is nice. Additionally, for having the off-road tires, suspension, not losing payload is fantastic because 850 pounds is already kind of the bare minimum that you're probably going to want. Although, I do find it interesting that for wearing the TrailSport badge, this only has 16 degrees of approach angle, 21 degrees of departure, and the same 8.2 inches of ground clearance that all the other all-wheel drive CR-Vs have. Which, by the way, all-wheel drive is standard on this one. You don't have to pay $1,500 more for this one like you do for all the other CR-Vs currently in this lineup. And then it has about 8.2 inches of ground clearance, a 390 final drive ratio, and it can do a full circle in about 38 feet. The last couple of things to mention here is the gas door is located on the driver's side. When you lock the vehicle, you can actually hear the gas door lock, so you don't have to worry about the bums trying to siphon any of your 14 gallons of gas, which 14 gallons for a compact crossover is kind of the smaller end of the spectrum, but thankfully this gets better MPG than a lot of the other ones. It's rated for about 38 around town, 33 on the highway, so your max road trip and range on the highway is about 462 miles, and around town it's 532, which is really not bad for 14 gallons overall. And then it has a 235 60/18 tire. It is a Continental cross-contact tire, has about 10-30 seconds of tread, which is not bad. It does not appear to be snowflake mounted rated, although it does have a snowflake symbol. I think that's just part of the tire symbol, not the third-party tested symbol. But it does look pretty cool. It definitely seems to be more of a soft roader, all-season, all-terrain type of combo tire, but it's super smooth to drive on, especially with the suspension that this has. And then it unfortunately does not have a spare tire, unlike the Toyota RAV4 hybrid or even the Subaru Forester Wilderness. Those come with spare tires. And then this is your key. You have lock, you have unlock, you even have remote start on the key, power liftgate, which is standard, and then panic button. But just leave that in your pocket because you do have proximity key features to lock and unlock the vehicle on this really nice shiny black painted door handle. The driver's side entryway actually has a lot of things going for it. The visibility is really good. The window is huge. It's not as big as a Subaru Forester, but it's definitely better and has more visibility than my Toyota RAV4, and certainly more than the Mazda CX-5, so I can really appreciate that. The materials are kind of the cheaper black plastics, but I think we all know at this point that they're going to age well. This vehicle is going to look the exact same in 20 years as it does today, so I think that's okay. Plus everything is synthetic and soft touch and comfortable. I do have to mention too that the speakers on this certainly sound better than both our Forester and our RAV4 with kind of the base model speakers in all of these. This one has more bass and it just sounds like there's more depth to it. And then the door panel, it opens up huge. You have a huge entryway, so big in fact that you almost have to be careful that people don't swing it open too far or the wind doesn't get a hold of it and you hit the car next to you. That's how big these doors open, which otherwise is very convenient. And then at 5'11", I easily can slide right onto that cloth seat. The bolstering is not overly aggressive, so it's easy to get on it, but then it's high enough that when it's time to depart, you can easily exit it, and I really appreciate that. There's nothing on the door sill though. For this price point, you don't get anything there, and then the all-weather mats are not yet installed. You have a rubberized dead pedal, gas and brake, knee airbag, part of the reason this is the top safety pick, and then you have power liftgate right here, ventilation, lighting stock, paddle shifters, but they're just for the regen braking. You have a leather-wrapped heated wheel, some Hobby Lobby orange stitching, it looks really nice, and the materials feel very good as well. And then you have a decently bolstered, but not aggressively bolstered, powered heated seat that does have TrailSport stamped in. I like that a lot, and then you have a small size power moonroof up top. And then sitting inside here, it's actually really nice. It's easy for me at 5'11" to find a comfortable position. Again, the windows, the visibility is really good. The belt line of the vehicle is fairly low, and the hood slopes down, so you can see right over it pretty well. The rear view mirror goes right down the center, and when we push the push button, fire it up, there's a little bit of a graphic. This is the 10.2-inch digital display. It doesn't seem like you can really change any of the features or the settings, but how it is right now, it has everything that you want and nothing that you don't. So honestly, I'm totally fine with how that is. I, of course, personally prefer analog gauges rather than digital, but it's cool, it's done well. And then this is the new 9-inch screen, which is part of the new setup for this new generation, or mid-generational refresh for 2026 in general. The backup camera is actually pretty decent. It takes up the full screen. The trajectory lines do move, and you can see everything that you need to. There's also a few different points of view, which is kind of cool. And then you have vents. You have physical gauges. Even though they're electronically controlled, you can just turn these forever. There's no physical set point or limitation. They're pretty nice. The heated seats are fairly decent. You have a wireless charger. You have some plugins, a 12-volt, 180-watt max. You have your drive modes. I think this has 4 drive modes. So if we go up to the top, we have Sport, Normal, Econ, and Snow. And then you have Hill Descent, electronic parking brake. Auto vehicle hold, you have some cup holders, you have some storage right here, and then you have a pretty decent size center console. Up top, you do have some LED lights, you have a place for your glasses. I don't see any auto dimming mirrors on this one. Usually there would be a button to show that. You do have the emergency button though. And then does this slide or extend? Ooh, it slides. And do we have an incandescent or LED? Incandescent, unfortunately. So that's where Honda is saving their money. Otherwise, this is a pretty nice interior. And I think both myself and the backpack are having a fun time. So with that said, let's hop into the back. Before we hop in the back though, I want to mention how accentuated this line is that goes down the whole length of the vehicle. It looks really good, especially when there's a little bit of a shadow under it. I think it looks really nice, the aggressiveness of this CR-V. But when we open up the door panel, it's pretty interesting. First of all, the door panel opens up probably even bigger than the front, so certainly watch out for the wind and for people not being as careful as they should with cars next to you. Look at that thing, that opens like 90 full degrees basically of actual panel opening, but the materials, they're basically all the same. Same thing with the cloth seats, you still have the stitching, which looks really cool. But look at that seat, look at how upright it can sit. Basically 90 degrees as well. I'm not sure what all the 90-degree angles are on this car, but I know that I don't want to be sitting like that. Thankfully, this has the most reclination, if that's a word, of any compact crossover that I have driven. You can really move that thing back, and now look at all that room that you've just opened up to. The seat height is perfect for me again at 5'11". What's not perfect is that I can't be a backseat driver from back here, though. I don't have a map pocket. I do have vents, though, which you need on every compact crossover. You have some plugins, and then you have an armrest right here with cup holders down the center the way they should be. And then when I'm all the way back above my head with this little cutout right here, I have pretty good headroom, maybe about an inch above my hat, pretty good knee room, and honestly, it's comfortable. I could take a nap back here. In fact, I might for just a while before finishing up this video. But otherwise, I don't have any complaints. Visibility's good. I, of course, wish we had maybe a little bit more glass, but also with more roof glass comes more heat. And back here with the vents on right now, I feel pretty cool in the back of this CR-V. So with that said, let's hop out and I'll show you the hatch. The back of the CR-V, I think looks pretty good, especially in this white color. It is kind of interesting that most of the lights are LED, but then you still have an incandescent for your turn signal right there. It does take up a lot of real estate between the different designs from the hatch liftgate to the side fenders, but overall I think it looks pretty good. And I love the darker tinted glass with this white color combo. And having blacked out badges, TrailSport, and dual exhaust, I really can't complain too much. I think this is a pretty good looking compact crossover, but there's a few different ways that you can get into the back. You can of course push the button that's on the dashboard. You can climb through the back seats. You can push the button that's underneath the Honda emblem, or just use the remote. Feel like you're doing something fancy, which if you paid for this, you might as well use it. Back here, remember, this is a hybrid. It has a 1.1 kilowatt hour battery pack down here, so you do lose a few cubic feet over the non-hybrids. This is rated for about 34, which even with that loss, it's still one of the best, one of the most class-leading compact crossovers in terms of room, and it's very usable. It's a wide opening. It's not very deep to lift your stuff into it. It's not super high either. And you can lift stuff and pile stuff up all the way to the top of the backrests before it starts to topple over. So the majority of this is backrest, so you can really stack a lot of stuff in here. If you do have a non-hybrid, you do have a spare tire down here, but because this is a hybrid, you just have a fix-a-flat kit hiding in the fender wheel well. But then you have a bag clip to hold your groceries, a plug-in, an LED light. You could have a privacy shade in here too. You even have a little bit of a window behind the C-pillar, and overall, it seems to be a pretty nice place to be. Even when the seats are down, they do not lay flat, which is a big knock, especially if you want to take this to the trails and go car camping. You're going to have a very accommodating mattress, but it still has about 76 cubic feet of room, which is not bad at all. With that said, let's lower the hatch and we'll move on to the passenger side. The side profile of this CR-V seriously looks so fantastic, especially with platinum white pearl paint and all the black accents. Everything from the roof rails to around the windows, the parameter, to the handles, to the black painted mirror caps. It all looks so good. I really like it a lot. You have turn signals on the mirror. You also have the blind spot monitoring right there. And then for the front, you have proximity key features again. But when you open it up, there's not really going to be any surprises that the driver's side didn't already show you, other than the fact that you don't have power options for this seat. Only the driver gets that. But my backpack doesn't seem to mind. It doesn't have legs, doesn't need to really reposition too much. And ultimately, you still have TrailSport stamped in, which is probably the most important thing. And then you have nothing here for storage, nothing up here for storage, which is kind of a shame. Some other compact crossovers do. And then you have kind of a smaller glove box. But overall, there's enough storage throughout this vehicle that we're not going to complain too much about that. And with that said, let's come around to the front. I'll pop the hood and I'll show you what the 2-liter hybrid system with a CVT looks like. Under the hood is a 2-liter, naturally aspirated, hybrid Atkinson cycle direct injection overhead valve train, 4-cylinder engine, connected to 2 electric motors, and running through an eCVT to get to the all-wheel drive system, which I do have to say that this is connected to the real-time system like some of the other smaller Hondas. It's not IVTM4, which is a better system. That is a more torque vectoring adaptive system. This is more of a slip and grip system. So when the front wheels slip, the rear kicks in. And honestly, for most people, especially on a decent set of tires, that is going to be good enough. But this eCVT, I actually have to say that after driving it around for the day, I really like it. It shifts super quick. Of course, those shifts are simulated. It doesn't have to shift. It just depends on how its driving characteristics are, how the tuning is, what setting you are. But it does seem to be a really good eCVT and probably a very reliable one because of how those are typically made up. And then this 4-cylinder engine, it peaks out at about 204 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque, and because it's decent naturally aspirated displacement and you have the 2 electric motors, it actually has pretty good low-end torque. For jumping across intersections, getting up to speed, I really can't complain too much about this powertrain. The exhaust is on the front. You can see the catalytic converter right there coming off of basically the cylinder head. The induction is on the rear. All the peripheral, reservoirs and things you might have to eventually service, they're all on the side. The battery, the fuse box. Honestly, it looks really simple on this platform, and then it's held on right there to the chassis with that engine bracket right there. And does it have a serpentine belt? I can't see. I know my Toyota RAV4 does not. So this seems to be a very mechanical system, and I think it's going to be pretty reliable for you guys. But with that said, let's drop the hood and take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the 2026 Honda CR-V TrailSport. We have a lot to talk about and only about 2 minutes to do it. But first of all, let's see how the power delivery of this works merging onto the highway. Hybrid naturally aspirated powertrains usually do pretty well, and this is no exception. You have a lot of low-end torque, and 247 torque really goes quite the ways when you only weigh about 3,800 pounds. But now that we're up to speed, I do have to say you do have about as much wind and road noise with these soft all-terrain tires as you do on a lot of other compact crossovers in this price point. But what's interesting is that the paddle shifters for regen braking on this mild hybrid actually work really well. You're not going to have to use the brake pedal a whole lot, and when you do, the brake pedal works really well. There's not really a lot of dead fill or squishiness before it actually starts to engage, and it's very linear in how the brakes are applied to the wheels. But just sitting in here, you have really good visibility. The windows are nice and large. The side mirrors are big as well, so you can really see everything you need to. Plus, with all the safety features, it does include blind spot monitoring, which I'm very happy about. And then these cloth seats, while I know cloth is not everyone's favorite, especially when you're paying close to $40,000 for a vehicle like this, I think they're comfortable. The heated setting is not the hottest that I have ever experienced in a compact crossover. I definitely think the Mazda CX-5 is a warmer seat, but it still is comfortable, and I like the overall package. The wheel feels really high quality, but after having it on the heat setting for about 15 minutes, it does seem to be a 360-degree heat setting, but it's not as warm as, again, some of the other vehicles. Even my RAV4 hybrid has a warmer steering wheel. And overall comfort and everything in this vehicle is nice. I do have to say, though, that the bass speakers on this one, hands down better than the bass speakers on my RAV4 and our 2025 Forester. And overall, this is a pretty nice vehicle. But if you have to get up to speed, if you have to pass someone going 70 miles an hour, how does it do? It gets up to speed fairly well. You do start to get a little bit short of air once you're already moving pretty quickly, and especially for the fact that I'm almost a mile above sea level. But honestly, I like the driving impressions of this. My initial impressions are that this is quite good and quite competent compared to a lot of the other mild hybrids and a lot of the other non-performance variant compact crossovers in general. I like this a lot. Is the TrailSport the one that's worth it for you? Potentially. But personally, I like driving the hybrid of this more than the non-hybrid, but that's just my thoughts, my opinions. And the type of driving I do is a lot of driving like this. So with that said, let's get to the private road and we'll do a 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the 2026 Honda CR-V. Keep in mind, density altitude's over 4,000 feet, so the gas portion of this powertrain is down on power, probably 12 to 14%. I'm in sport mode. We'll do a little bit of a brake rev and we'll see what this thing can do. Not bad. True 0 to 60 came in at 7.92 seconds, or over a second and a half faster than the non-hybrid CR-V I tested a few weeks ago. My final thoughts of the 2026 Honda CR-V, but specifically the TrailSport, is I do have to say the more hybrid CR-Vs of this current 6th generation I drive, the more I like them. They do have good low-end torque. They are pretty comfortable to drive. This handles bumps and ruts in the road really well. And overall, it's just a good, reliable vehicle, one that you can depend on, one that you can count on. And for 40 grand, sure, you might still have cloth seats. Sure, you might not have a panoramic sunroof like some other vehicles, but you're still buying quality. You're not just buying features that don't work very well or aren't going to work very long. You're buying the Honda nameplate, and I think that's still worth something. But what might not be worth something, depending on who you are and what your preference is the TrailSport. I know this is not a huge price premium over the regular Sport, but what you get really doesn't make it that much more off-road capable. You have a slightly more aggressive tire than just the all-season. I would not call this a full-on all-terrain tire. Your MPG, it's going to be fairly similar, maybe a little bit worse than the non-hybrid. And then you have some badging. You have some blacked out badges. You have some interior accent changes. But having 16 degrees of approach angle is not very impressive when most Subaru Outback, Forester, Crosstrek Wildernesses are well over 20. Same with the rear. This just doesn't have, the off-road tech that some of those other vehicles do, especially where it still has the real-time all-wheel drive system versus the IVT4. If this had an extra inch of ground clearance, it had IVT M4, and it had a more aggressive snowflake mount to peak rated tire, then this would compete much more closely to something like the Subaru Wilderness. But the hardware, the tech, it just doesn't compete. But if you just want it for the looks and you're happy to, not spend too much more than the regular hybrid Sport, this is awesome. I like this a lot. The wheels look better than basically any other CR-V wheels that I've seen. I love the accents. This feels really nice to drive. It really does offer a lot. Just know that it's not going to be quite as competitive as a Subaru Wilderness, and it's not going to be as competitive as some of the more dedicated off-roaders that have substantial mechanical changes. But it still is a very cool car, and I like it a lot. Huge thanks to Larry H. Miller for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link them below, and if you want a big discount, remember to reference my videos to them. And if you got anything out of this one, please consider liking it. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Are you going to buy one of these? Do you already have one? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and ownership experience with the 6th generation CR-V in general. With that said, I wish you guys the absolute best, and I hope you take care. Until next time, see ya.